unlocking potential together. That's what my parents did. Together they saw in people living in poverty what many had overlooked: creativity, talent, drive, resourcefulness, and committed to doing what they could do to unlock that potential for the greater good of those individuals, if not the whole world. My parents' legacy is one that has enriched our family, the Opportunity family, and numerous families throughout the world. Today, the work of Opportunity continues, and on a scale my parents could never have imagined. If I were to try and tell the whole amazing story of their years with Opportunity, the extraordinary commitment they showed, the many lives they touched and changed, we'd be here all day. But what I can share with you is what called my parents to do this work. In the mid-1960s, my dad was working for the Bristol-Myers Company in New York. Dad had been marketing director for a number of years when he was asked to become president of the new international division of Bristol-Myers. The job would require him to travel globally, building business partnerships with pharmaceutical companies from other countries in the emerging world economy. He agreed to take the position on the condition that Mom would travel with him and Bristol-Myers would pay for it. Bristol-Myers agreed. In their travels and Dad's new job, Dad would conduct his business and Mom would visit missionaries who were most often ministering to people in less than desirable conditions. If Dad had a day or an afternoon free, they would go sightseeing, but not the kind of sightseeing that you're thinking of. Mom would take them to the most destitute parts of the city or region they were visiting because bringing relief to the hungry and destitute was her passion. Though maybe not consciously aware of it then, my mother was planting seeds. One summer Sunday in 1971, while sitting in church, Dad sensed a call from God as he listened to a man talk about the need for men and women in business to help people in impoverished countries start and sustain businesses. On the drive home from church, Dad told my mom about his feeling of being called by God to do something like this. My mom's response was, "It's about time you stop making the rich people richer and start doing something for people living in poverty." That afternoon, Dad called up the man he heard in church and asked him to come to their home so he could learn more about what the man had observed. That conversation, along with my mom's insistence, was the catalyst for everything that followed. By the fall of 1971, Dad announced he was leaving Bristol-Myers. In his resignation letter, he said that he wanted to help solve the critical problems of poverty and unemployment in developing countries, and was going to do so by assisting in the establishment of indigenous businesses, a rather unusual and bold idea back then, one that would have certainly raised eyebrows at Bristol-Myers. In less than 4 months from the Sunday Dad first sensed the call, he and Mom sold their house and moved to Washington, D.C., with nothing more than their personal belongings and some Bristol-Myers stock. They moved from a brand new sprawling home on 5 acres of land in Bernardsville, New Jersey, to a townhome in Washington, D.C. They both traded Dad's great job at Bristol-Myers for an opportunity to serve God and those in need. In 1998, Mom and Dad celebrated their 80th birthdays. At that time, they were living in a retirement village in Fort Myers, Florida, near my brother. In June of that year, they flew to Chicago to attend our youngest child's graduation from high school. The Saturday night before the graduation, Dad pulled me aside. He motioned for me to come closer, as though he wanted no one else to hear the conversation. And at first I thought it was a joke, because every now and then he'd do that. But what he wanted to tell me was this. He said, "Don, I figured out that had we held on to the Bristol-Myers stock, its current value would have been about $10 million. Then, and with a big smile on his face, he said, "Our net worth today is $1 million. Being the math wizard that I am, I said to him, "So you and Mom have given 90% of your estate away to do God's work?" He said, "That's right." I gave him a hug. It was a great moment. The next morning before breakfast, Dad walked out of his room, took a couple of steps toward me, and collapsed in my arms. He was having a heart attack and was rushed to the hospital for bypass surgery. A month later, only days before they were scheduled to fly back to Florida, Mom was diagnosed with lung cancer and was told she had 90 days to live. Devastated, I flew back to Florida with my parents. My brother and I got Mom settled into the hospice wing of the little hospital that was on the grounds of the retirement village. Dad survived Mom by eight years. When I would visit him in his humble little room in assisted living, I would bring my laptop computer along. And I'd say to him, "So Dad, where do you want to go today? You want to go to Southeast Asia, Latin America, Africa?" And I would take him on a virtual journey to one of those places. And we would look at all that opportunity was doing in that particular spot. He would sit in his chair and marvel at everything he saw. And he would say over and over, "I can't believe it." And shake his head, "I just can't believe it." I wonder from time to time if the little boy on the hillside with the 5 loaves and the 2 fish didn't say the same thing after he saw Jesus feeding the 5,000. I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. Our family has been blessed. We have been given a first-hand look at what God can do when He touches the hearts of individuals with simple faith. That is the legacy of my parents, and one I'm humbled and blessed to share with you today. 4 decades ago, Mom and then Dad dreamed of serving people living in poverty. Today, Opportunity helps make the dreams of more than 4 million clients a reality. On behalf of the Whittaker family, I want to thank you for joining us today and for your generous support of Opportunity International.